When the cameras roll on live television, words have power, but sometimes they go too far. On a night that started like any other, a prominent liberal host crossed a line that would ignite a nationwide storm. Barron Trump, the youngest member of one of America's most controversial families, became the unexpected target of a biting comment. The nation gasped. Millions tuned in, some laughing, others outraged. But behind the scenes, one man was not laughing. With a steely glare and a slammed folder, Donald Trump, former president and protective father, made a decision that would send shockwaves across the country. This is the story of how one remark sparked a battle between power, free speech, and family. A story that captivated a nation and left everyone asking, where is the line? It began with a single sentence, uttered live on air. A sentence dripping with sarcasm, aimed not at Donald Trump, but at his son. Maybe Barron can teach his dad a thing or two about basic decency, the host quipped, smirking as the audience chuckled. But this wasn't just a joke. For many, it was a low blow, dragging an innocent teenager into the crossfire of a political battlefield. The reaction was immediate. Social media erupted into chaos. Twitter trended with hashtags like #BarronDeservesBetter and #FreeSpeechMatters. On one side were those who condemned the host for targeting a child, while others defended the comment as harmless satire. Facebook feeds were flooded with fiery debates, memes, and think pieces dissecting the incident. Even late-night comedians joined the fray, turning the remark into yet another punchline. But as the internet raged, Donald Trump remained silent, for a moment. Behind the walls of his Mar-a-Lago office, a plan was taking shape. He was not just a former president this time, he was a father ready to defend his son's dignity. Filing a lawsuit against the network wasn't just about the remark, it was about sending a message. And so, the stage was set. On one side, the liberal hosts, sharp-tongued and unapologetic. Sarah Klein, the fiery lead host of the evening show, known for her biting wit and unflinching political takes, quickly became the face of the controversy. Her co-host, Jack Langston, the sarcastic provocateur, doubled down on the joke, laughing off the backlash with his trademark smugness. Together, they represented the voice of a bold, often polarizing media landscape. On the other side stood Donald Trump, no stranger to controversy himself. But this time, he wasn't alone. Enter Rebecca Hollis, Trump's trusted legal strategist. Known in legal circles as the Velvet Hammer, Hollis was both brilliant and ruthless. With a reputation for unconventional tactics and a sharp sense of justice, she was exactly the ally Trump needed for this battle. As tensions mounted, two questions hung in the air. Could Trump prove his case against the mighty media machine? And more importantly, how far would both sides go to protect their reputations? This wasn't just a lawsuit, it was a battle of principles, power, and pride. And as the first shots were fired, the world watched, waiting for a verdict that would shape the future of free speech and accountability in America. It began as a fleeting moment, a comment tossed out carelessly on live television. But within hours, that moment had transformed into a cultural firestorm. Social media became the battleground, with millions of users weighing in. On Twitter, hashtags like #BarronDeservesRespect and #MediaAccountability trended for days, while others countered with #satire is free speech. The debates were heated, emotional, and unrelenting. Opinion pieces flooded news outlets, with journalists dissecting the remark and its implications. Some defended the hosts, claiming satire as a protected form of speech, while others argued that a line had been crossed by targeting a child. Even late-night comedians joined the fray, turning the incident into fuel for their monologues, poking fun at both sides. But the fallout didn't stop there. Prominent politicians, celebrities, and public figures began to take sides. A fiery exchange erupted between two senators on live TV, one defending the host's right to free speech, the other condemning the comment as a disgrace to journalism. Hollywood stars voiced their opinions, some rallying behind Barron's right to privacy, while others criticized Donald Trump for what they saw as an overreaction. And then came the announcement that changed everything. Standing before a crowd of reporters, Donald Trump, with his unmistakable confidence, declared his intention to sue the network responsible. The room buzzed with questions, cameras flashing, but Trump's message was clear. This wasn't just about a joke, it was about holding the media accountable for their words. The battle lines were drawn, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Behind closed doors, the Trump legal team assembled for a high-stakes meeting. Leading the charge was Rebecca Hollis, the sharp-witted lawyer known for her unorthodox strategies. As the room quieted, Hollis stood at the head of the table, her presence commanding respect. "This is no ordinary defamation case," she began, laying out a strategy that combined legal precision with public relations savvy. Hollis's plan was multi-pronged: a strong courtroom argument, a public narrative that highlighted Barron's innocence, and a thorough investigation into the network's practices. But the room wasn't without tension. Some of Trump's advisors voiced concerns. Suing a major media network could be seen as an attack on free speech, one warned, his voice cautious. Others questioned whether the move might backfire politically, painting Trump as thin-skinned. Trump listened but remained resolute. For him, this wasn't about politics, it was about principle. "They went after my son," he said firmly. "Not me. Barron. If I don't stand up for him, who will?" The moment was charged with emotion. Even the skeptics in the room couldn't deny Trump's conviction. With Hollis at the helm and Trump's unwavering determination, the team left the meeting more united than ever. The plan was in motion, and there was no turning back. The announcement of Trump's lawsuit sent shockwaves through the media world, and the response from the opposition was swift. On their next broadcast, the liberal hosts wasted no time addressing the controversy. With a mix of sarcasm and defiance, Sarah Klein, the outspoken lead host, dismissed the lawsuit as yet another Trump tantrum. Her co-host, Jack Langston, chimed in, calling it a desperate ploy for attention. Their words dripped with condescension, and their audience roared with laughter. But behind the scenes, the network wasn't taking the lawsuit lightly. Executives scrambled to assemble a legal team that could match Trump's firepower. Enter Malcolm Hayes, a high-profile attorney known for his ruthless cross-examinations and his knack for winning impossible cases. Hayes quickly became the face of the network's defense, his reputation alone enough to send chills through the opposing side. And then, the story took an unexpected turn. A leaked email, reportedly from within the network, surfaced online. In it, producers openly discussed the comment about Barron before it aired, acknowledging that it was risky but deciding it would make great television. The revelation sent shockwaves through the public, casting doubt on the host's claim that the remark was harmless satire. As the tension mounted, both sides dug in their heels. For Trump and his team, the leaked email was a gift, a smoking gun that exposed the network's intentions. For the hosts and their defenders, it was a challenge to double down and prove their case in court. The stage was set for a showdown that would capture the nation's attention, with reputations, careers, and principles hanging in the balance. The courtroom was silent as the trial began, the air heavy with anticipation. On one side, Donald Trump sat beside his legal team, his expression unreadable but resolute. On the other, the network's top brass and their star hosts, equally stoic but clearly brimming with defiance. Rebecca Hollis, Trump's razor-sharp lawyer, was the first to address the court. Rising from her seat, she walked to the front of the room with an air of unshakable confidence. "Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury," she began, her voice steady but impassioned. "This case is not about politics. It is not about the clash of ideologies or the freedom to criticize public figures. This case is about a child, a young man who, through no fault of his own, was thrust into the spotlight and cruelly targeted for the sake of ratings. We are here today to defend the principle that every individual, regardless of their name or family, deserves respect and dignity. Barron Trump is not just a name in the news. He is a son, a brother, a human being." The room was transfixed as Hollis continued, painting a vivid picture of the harm inflicted by the host's thoughtless comment. She concluded with a heartfelt plea: "This lawsuit is not about silencing free speech. It is about drawing a line that says no child should ever be used as a weapon in the battle for ratings." Then came Malcolm Hayes, the network's high-profile attorney. With a commanding presence, he countered Hollis's argument with precision. "The First Amendment is the bedrock of our democracy, Hayes declared. It is the shield that protects journalists, satirists, and commentators as they hold power to account. What my clients did was exercise their right to speak freely in the spirit of satire, a tradition that has long been a cornerstone of American media. To punish them for this would be to set a dangerous precedent, one that could muzzle the press and stifle public discourse. As Hayes concluded, the courtroom was left with two starkly opposing narratives. It was a battle of ideals, the sanctity of privacy versus the freedom of speech. And the stakes couldn't be higher. The trial's momentum shifted as witnesses were called to the stand. The first, a former network producer, hesitated as she took her oath. Her nervous demeanor hinted at the bombshell she was about to drop. There's a culture at the network, she confessed, her voice trembling. A culture that encourages us to push boundaries, even if it means crossing ethical lines. We were told to find ways to target political figures and their families. It wasn't about journalism, it was about getting viewers. Her testimony sent murmurs through the courtroom. But the most emotional moment came when a letter, written by Barron Trump himself, was introduced as evidence. Rebecca Hollis held the letter delicately, her voice soft as she read its contents aloud. I didn't ask for this life. I just want to be a normal kid, but I can't when people treat me like a joke. I hope that one day, the world can see me for who I am, not just for my last name. The courtroom fell silent. Even the most hardened critics in the room couldn't help but feel the weight of Barron's words. And then came the footage, a piece of evidence that would shift the trial's trajectory entirely. It was a behind-the-scenes clip, captured unknowingly, showing the hosts laughing and joking about the comment before going live. Do you think this'll get us trending? Sarah Klein asked, smirking. Oh, it definitely will, Jack Langston replied, chuckling. The footage was damning. The hosts' defense of satire and free speech crumbled under the weight of their own cynicism. For the first time, doubt began to creep into the faces of the network's team. Just when it seemed the trial couldn't get any more dramatic, Hollis dropped a final bombshell. Your Honor, she announced, her tone sharp, we have uncovered evidence of a secret deal between the network's executives and a prominent political group. This deal wasn't about reporting the news or entertaining the public. It was about weaponizing their platform to undermine their perceived opponents, regardless of the collateral damage. Gasps rippled through the courtroom as Hollis presented a series of emails and financial records. They revealed a coordinated effort to use controversial remarks as part of a broader strategy to manipulate public perception. The opposing counsel, visibly shaken, scrambled to refute the claims. But the damage was done. The courtroom had transformed from a simple defamation trial into an exposé of a deeper conspiracy. As the revelations unfolded, the nation watched in disbelief. This was no longer just about a remark. It was about systematic abuse of power and the lengths to which some would go to win the battle of public opinion. The courtroom was still, the air thick with tension, as the jury filed back into their seats. 12 individuals, tasked with deciding the outcome of a case that had gripped the nation, avoided eye contact with both parties as they prepared to deliver their decision. The foreperson stood, clearing their throat. In the matter of Trump versus Horizon Media Network, we, the jury, find in favor of the plaintiff, Donald Trump. Gasps echoed through the room, followed by a flurry of whispers. The decision was final, Trump had won. But before anyone could react further, the judge called for silence, her voice calm yet commanding. This case, she began, addressing the room with an authoritative tone, has illuminated the delicate balance between two cornerstones of our democracy, the freedom of speech and the right to personal dignity. The jury's decision does not diminish the value of the First Amendment, but it reminds us all that rights come with responsibilities. Words have power, and when wielded carelessly, they can cause harm, especially to those who cannot defend themselves. Her gavel struck, and with that, the trial was over. But the impact of the verdict was just beginning. The fallout was swift and far-reaching. Hours after the verdict was announced, Horizon Media Network released a carefully worded statement. We apologize, it read, to Barron Trump and his family for the comments made on our platform. As a company, we strive to hold ourselves to the highest standards, and we fell short. We are committed to learning from this incident. But apologies alone weren't enough to quell the outrage. The hosts at the center of the controversy found themselves at the receiving end of public backlash. Former fans took to social media to express their disappointment, advertisers began pulling their sponsorships, and the show's ratings plummeted overnight. Meanwhile, the decision sparked a wave of support for Donald Trump. His approval ratings, which had been stagnant for months, began to climb as supporters praised his unwavering defense of his son. For many, this wasn't just about politics. It was about a father standing up for his child against a system that had crossed the line. But amidst the public spectacle, it was the quiet, private moments that mattered most. Later that evening, Trump returned to Mar-a-Lago, where Barron was waiting. "Dad," Barron said, his voice soft but sincere, "thank you for standing up for me. I didn't think anyone could stop them, but you did." Trump smiled, placing a hand on his son's shoulder. "You're my son, Barron. There's nothing I wouldn't do for you." Barron hesitated before speaking again. "I just hope," he continued, "that someday, people will stop using words to hurt others. It shouldn't have to come to this." Trump nodded, his expression thoughtful. "You're right, Barron. And maybe, just maybe, this will make people think twice before they speak." The nation watched as one of its most divisive figures took on a battle not for politics, but for family. And as the dust began to settle, one thing was clear: the power of words, and the accountability that comes with them, would never be viewed the same way again. As the dust settles and the headlines fade, the story of Donald Trump suing a media giant over an insult aimed at his son leaves behind powerful lessons for all of us. At its core, this was never just about a lawsuit, it was about the impact of words. Words that can either uplift or destroy. Words that, when used recklessly, have the power to wound beyond what the eye can see. And yet, in a world where the noise of opinions and criticisms drowns out the quiet truths, this case forced us to stop and reflect. In the heat of the moment, we often forget the real people behind the headlines. Barron Trump, a young man who never asked for the spotlight, found himself at the center of a media storm, his dignity treated as collateral damage. But what we saw was a father who stepped forward, not just to defend his child, but to defend the principle that family and respect must come before anything else, whether it's politics, ratings, or agendas. This case also highlighted a fundamental question: who holds the media accountable? In a world where reporters, hosts, and networks can shape perceptions, it's easy to forget the responsibility that comes with the power to influence. The lawsuit brought that responsibility into sharp focus, reminding us all that words matter. Whether spoken in jest or serious accusation, they carry weight, and we must all ask ourselves, how much harm is too much? As the courtroom drama unfolded, we witnessed not just a battle over legalities, but a fight for something much bigger, something we all share, a basic sense of decency. A belief that, even in a world where we clash in our ideologies, we can still find room for respect and humanity. And now, I turn it over to you. Was Donald Trump's lawsuit justified? Did he go too far in defending his son, or was he right to stand up for Barron in the face of such public vitriol? Where do we, as a society, draw the line between free speech and defamation? These are questions that deserve thoughtful discussion. So, share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's hear your opinions, your perspectives. Because one thing is clear, the conversation sparked by this case is far from over. And maybe, just maybe, it will inspire all of us to think more carefully about the words we use and the consequences they carry.